welcome everybody, and we are here for our Lunchtime Learn, all about managing your time effectively. So just to introduce us, for anybody that is new to our community or who hasn't been on one of our Lunchtime Learns before, James and I are the founders of MyPeopleClub. It was our little dream over a year ago to kind of get this out, and we launched earlier this year. And essentially, MyPeopleClub is an online platform membership for HR people, coaches, and trainers. So we have a huge HR center on our platform, which has got all the template documents, resources, trackers, everything you could hope to wish for, sample policies. We have loads and loads of coaching resources as well. So everything in terms of how to actually complete coaching sessions, but also then coaching you to become a better leader, a better manager, things you can do on yourself and with your team. So loads of great resources in the coaching center. And then also we have a training center. So we know for those that train, you never have things like icebreakers to hand or case studies. So there's loads of stuff like that and loads of other really useful training resources within the MyPeopleClub platform. We also have monthly masterclasses. So if you're part of our free membership, then you can get access to one full masterclass. So you can get a feel for what they are, how they're set out. They all have a quiz. You can get a certificate at the end of it, all that sort of stuff. And we have got some absolutely amazing partners that we work with who are real experts in their field, and they come and give their knowledge and skills to us every month within the platform. Not only that, we also have a business directory, and we also have member perks and discounts. So we have great partners who offer their services. So one of the dreams for MyPeopleClub is that it would be a one-stop shop, so you could get everything you needed under one roof. So if you needed health and safety people, you needed first aid people, or you needed a new HR system, then you can find everything you need within one roof, which is what we're growing with MyPeopleClub. And some of those partners also offer our members perks and discounts, restaurants, bars, of different services. So it really is great value.
What are we going to cover today? 3 things. We're going to look at how you plan and prioritize how your time is spent. We're also going to recognize where you tend to spend time badly. Why do we spend time badly? And how can we avoid some of that? What can we do to try and improve how we use our time up? And the art of delegation. It's a good way of looking at everything you've got and working out stuff that you don't need to do right now. Maybe you don't need to do it. Maybe you're not the right person to do it, but how can you get other people to help out? And delegation is one of the methods which I'll go through in terms of managing your time. I love this quote. The bee is praised, the mosquito is squatted. It's just so true. I don't know about you, but I know if I saw a bee in the garden, I would sit and admire it for what it's doing. I wouldn't even think about squatting it. I wouldn't think about the fact that it might be wasting its time doing stuff. The mosquito, on the other hand, completely different story. Sorry, mosquitoes, sorry, mosquito lovers, but it is just a difference. How you use your time is really, really important. And it's the impression that it gives to other people of when you're really good at managing your time. You deliver on time, you turn up on time, you come to meetings on time, and so forth. So let's get into the first module, how to plan and prioritize how your time is spent. What if I gave you £86,400? What are you likely to do with that? I think the first thing you would do is just go off and spend some straight away. It's a lot of money. So you'd spend some stuff, you'd buy some goodies, you'd buy some luxuries that you've been wanting for quite a while. Then you might, put some aside maybe for some necessities. Maybe you might invest some, but you're probably going to be a bit throwaway with some of it. Now, every day you have 86,400 seconds of your life to do something with. So what do you do with that? Well, let's say you have 8 hours sleep. I know for some that might be a luxury, a dream that only happens on the weekends, but that takes up just short of 30,000 seconds of that 86,000. So you've already lost those without being able to do anything. Then you've got to get yourself ready for the day. You've got to shower, you've got to get dressed, you've got to have a shave, you've got to have some breakfast, have lunch, have dinner, prepare lunch, prepare breakfast, teas and coffees, lots of water. Let's give that 3 hours. That's another 11,000 seconds gone. Then we all do it. I do it. I'm as guilty as the next person. I love having a little browse on social media. I only wanted to see what those 3 notifications were, but 10 minutes later, I found I've been browsing just some random posts, looking at some random comments. Let's say with social media, maybe even watching a bit of TV, that's 2 hours. That's just over another 7,000 seconds gone. So you can see in your day already, you've lost the best part of maybe 40,000 seconds. That's half that time. So you've now only got effectively half of your day left to be productive, to do stuff, not only on business, but also for yourself, kind of personally. So it's really important to remember that kind of half that time has gone, or a big chunk of that time has gone while you've been sleeping. And for me, I think you've got to approach your day with a view that some things are just absolutely necessary. They are things like eating well, drinking lots of water. They're not to do with work. They're not to do with tasks, activities. They're just, for me, kind of essentials that are really important. And they're good for our physical health. And I think it's important to put time in the day for things that are good for your mental health and well-being as well. So that might be time to step away from your desk, to step away from email, turn the phone off, go and get some fresh air, have a walk. Maybe it is about using your phone, but to ring someone that you've not spoken to for a while, a friend, a family member. Maybe it's just about reading a book, watching a funny video on YouTube, something that helps you escape. It's a luxury. We love to have time to do that, but quite often it doesn't happen unless you plan it in, unless you make it something that's necessary and say, every day I'm going to have time for me. Now that will take up some of those valuable seconds, some of those valuable pounds of your day's currency, but it's worth it. There's a good return on investment there. And the rest of the time that you've got for work, or whatever your day is going to involve, it can be prioritized. You can have a clear idea of what needs doing that day, why it needs doing, be clear on when it needs doing during the day. And for me, I think it's staying true to what's important to you. And it's also around staying true to when you are at your best in any given day. Now, there is something called the circadian rhythm. Now, I don't know if you've heard of it or not. I've heard about it over the last 8 or 9 years when I've been doing this kind of training and working with coaching clients on how they maximize the effectiveness of their day. Now, your circadian rhythm is essentially the highs and lows of your energy as you go through the day. What I'm going to do is play a short video. It's just a few minutes long. I'll apologize in advance that the person narrating it talks very fast, so listen to keep up, but it's just a nice introduction to what we mean by the circadian rhythm.
Maybe you're a world traveler and you think nothing across in a half a dozen time zones in a couple hours. Or maybe you work at night and it's finals week and sleep is less important than passing calculus. Or maybe you just co-hosted a 48-hour live stream with your brother. Hey, it's your choice, but if taken to the extreme, living the nightlife can mess you up, leaving you exhausted and confused and probably sick. That's because you, like most other inhabitants of the Earth, have a special biological system that keeps your body in sync with the cycles of day and night. It's your circadian rhythm, and unlike your alarm clock, it doesn't have a snooze button. Our internal timekeeping device is, logically enough, synchronized to the rising and setting of the sun. Many of your body's systems are calibrated to the appearance and disappearance of natural light, and when we mess with that, things can get out of whack in a hurry. Circadian comes from the Latin circa diem, or approximately a day, and pretty much all living organisms down to algae and bacteria have their own circadian rhythms. Whether you're an insect, bird, or a mammal, those rhythms affect the 3 big necessities: eating, sleeping, and mating. Everything from testosterone secretion to bowel movement suppression is controlled by this daily cycle. In humans, scientists are slowly beginning to understand how these natural oscillations take place every day. What we're pretty sure about is that the main regulator of circadian rhythm can be found in the hypothalamus, a small area at the base of your brain that's responsible for connecting the nervous system to your endocrine system. Our biological clock is dictated by a group of nerve cells within the hypothalamus called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or SCN. This is connected to our optic nerves, allowing the SCN cells to respond to light and dark. So in the morning, when our optic nerves sense light, the SCN sends signals to raise our temperature, heart rate, blood pressure, and delay the release of hormones like melatonin. That helps us with the sleeping. Researchers have found that as our body temperatures rise throughout the morning, our memory, alertness, and concentration also sharpen, so we tend to be at our cognitive best in the late morning. And that is generally followed by an afternoon lull. In fact, while our desire to sleep is strongest from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m., a close second is between 2 p.m. and 3 p.m. Now, that may sound counterintuitive, unless you have ever had a class at 2 p.m. in a nice warm room and suddenly that wooden desk starts to feel a lot like a feather bed. This suggests that napping is an important and natural part of our daily rhythms, so don't feel bad about it. No other species exhibits the same once-a-day sleep pattern that most humans have become accustomed to, and there's growing evidence that mid-afternoon napping might be in all of our best interests. That afternoon lull is followed by another period of alertness, but in the evening, as the sun disappears, the SCN again picks up those signals of changing light from our eyes, organs shift into low gear, our body's temperature cools, and sleep-induced hormones are activated. Problem is that our daily schedules do not correlate with sunrise and sunset anymore. What with working and studying and late-night Redditing, we're constantly fighting that master clock that's been trying to keep us in sync since we were babies. Scientists have linked disruptions to our natural rhythms to health issues ranging from diabetes and obesity to depression and dementia. It's believed that up to 15% of our genes may be regulated by circadian rhythms. So when you get off that next transatlantic flight or finish pulling that all-nighter, do yourself a favor, listen to your body and take some more naps.
So for me, I think taking naps is absolutely important, as is listening to your body. And it's a weird saying, listening to your body. It's not something you can hear, but you just sense what it's telling you. You probably had those moments where you know that you're trying to work, you're trying to get something done, it's taking twice as long. Words on the screen maybe just start blurring a little bit, your energy feels low, and it's just not the right time to be working. It's time to stop. That's the time to take a nap. If you can push something to the morning, push something to later in the day, delegate it, do something with it, that's going to be a better answer. So that's your circadian rhythm. I would encourage you to think about yours, maybe over the next few days, just on a bit of paper, just jot down the times of the day when you feel more alert, you feel more productive, you're smashing through emails, you're getting presentations done, you're having brilliant conversations with people, you're being creative, and the times where you just want to switch off, you're procrastinating, you're deflecting from doing something that you should be doing, you're distracting yourself. Just make a note of when those times are. And as you see some of those consistencies, you'll get a good idea of what your rhythm looks like. Now, how do we prioritize everything that we've got to do? I like using this Eisenhower principle. And again, it's something that I use in my training. And essentially, we are categorizing everything that sits in front of us in two ways. We're saying, how important is it and how urgent is it? And depending on where it sits in these four quadrants, determines what we do with it. And you can see here, it's between doing it now, diarising it, delegating it, or dumping it. Now, stuff that needs doing now, they're the necessities, they're the crises that happen, the pressing issues, you know you've got deadlines to get something done by, you've got meetings that you have to attend, or tasks that you know are going to produce immediate results. They're the things that you just can't do anything else with. So they have to be prioritized. You have to plan them into your day so that you're going to do them that day, do them there and then in the time that's important. Now, stuff that can be diarised, we're not necessarily talking about the same day, but maybe tomorrow, maybe the end of the week, maybe next week. Things that involve you doing a bit of preparation. Maybe it's doing something that prevents big issues happening, prevents impacts on other people, on your customers, perhaps prevents issues for yourself. You're planning stuff. Maybe it's a bit around personal development. Quite often, ourselves as business owners, ourselves in corporate companies, we want to develop ourselves personally, and it doesn't get prioritized. Sometimes that's okay, but it's important to plan it. Planning when you are going to put time, like you are now on a Lunchtime Learn, learning about time management, plan that time in when you're going to help yourself and give yourself some development time. It's also about relationship building. We've talked before about your network, the importance of building your network, nurturing your network. That takes time, planning in a conversation with someone. Sometimes you can't do it there and then. You've got to plan it in a time and a day that works for you and works for them. So these are the kind of things that we need to diarise. Now, the stuff we can delegate, quite often, they're things that are a bit deceptive. So someone comes up to you and says, I've got this thing and it needs doing right now and it's really, really important. But actually it's not. It might be important to them, but it's not important to you. Maybe you're not the right person to do it, or it's just not more important than the things that you've got to do now. So these are those interruptions, whether they're by phone, by email, meetings that get thrown into your calendar and you think, I don't really need to be there. I can delegate that to someone else on my behalf. Just tasks that are easier and more appealing. Sometimes these are the ones that fall into that procrastination bracket. And then there's the stuff that we can just dump. It's waste, it's excess, it's trivia, it's the social emails that we like to spend time on in our inbox rather than the business emails. Perhaps it's work that helps us escape from something that we're trying to avoid, a big hairy task, a big presentation or pitch you've got to prepare, a conversation with someone that we're trying to put off because we don't want the conversation, or it's stuff that we're doing to help us look busy, maybe if we're in a role within an organization. So I would just say every day, and certainly at the end of a day before the working day ahead, think about the stuff you've got to do, use this principle and just think, right, how important is it? How urgent is it? Do I need to do it today? Do it now? Do I diarize it, delegate it and dump it? And it's fair to say that if there's stuff you're diarizing, when you come to that day, when you've diarized it, it becomes a do now activity. So it's a cyclic thing. You've got to keep it going. Let's now look at where your time gets spent badly. There are common ways in which your time can be stolen. You get to the end of the day and you say, where has the time gone? What have I been doing? I've not done the stuff I wanted to do. What have I done? And sometimes that's because we're not prioritizing properly. Sometimes it's because we attempt a task, we start a task, we get given it, and we don't actually know what to do. It takes longer than we thought. Maybe we put it off a bit. Sometimes we're just not motivated to get on with it. That often leads to procrastination. Sometimes we get interrupted. We talked about those things that we can just put off when we get interrupted. Sometimes, if you're like me, you're a bit of a perfectionist, you just take 20% longer doing something than you need to because you're trying to dot all the I's, cross the T's, get everything looking 100% perfect. Apply the 80-20 rule. If it's 80% there, it's going to be good enough. So just leave it at that point so you can move on to something else. Often you end up doing other people's work because we don't like to say no, we like to help people. And sometimes people delegate to us or they're off ill and we have to pick it up and we have to do something. And we've had to use that principle again and say, actually, this other person's work is really important. Meetings overrun, it's a big thing. I was even yesterday frustrated on a meeting that someone else had organized for 45 minutes. And it was pretty clear as we got to about half an hour that we were going to be at least another half an hour. So I have to start making that decision. Do I just say, I've got to leave in 15 minutes or am I flexible? But then that's going to eat into more of my time that I've planned for something else. And this happens. And you know what? Procrastination happens. We convince ourselves that our pen drawer needs reorganizing there and then. And we do it. And we put all the pens on the floor. And then we think, actually, I might rearrange all the other desk drawers at the same time. And an hour has gone doing something completely unproductive that could have been dumped, maybe delegated, maybe diarized, but it wasn't important there and then. Often when I'm running sessions on time management, I just do a little round the room, a bit of an icebreaker and just say, give me the best example of procrastinations and I'll have an award for it. Because sometimes there are some cracking ways in which people have procrastinated to try and avoid doing something else. So how can we minimize our time being stolen? Well, there's lots of techniques and I've listed a few here. First one, as I said, use that principle, use the Eisenhower principle. Is it urgent? Is it important? If not, diarize it, delegate it, dump it. Technology allows us to manage our time appropriately and manage those interruptions. So you've got voicemail on your phone. If a call comes in, let it go to voicemail. Even turn your phone off, it will go to voicemail. A little tip as well is to record a personal greeting on your voicemail because you're more likely for someone to actually leave you a message. With email, we can set an out of office. I get that sometimes from people who say, I only read emails between 8 and 9 in the morning and 1 and 2 in the afternoon. So if it's really, really urgent, please ring me. Or to let people know you're out of the office, you're on holiday, you're away. Reminders, you can turn those off if it's stuff that you don't need to keep pinging onto your computer, which means you've got to keep snoozing them. If you find you write a lot of very similar emails, you write a lot of similar documents, why not template it? Have a template response so that actually all you need to do when you reply to someone is just add their name, maybe a little bit of context, but all the rest of it is the same. It saves you typing it over and over again. And the same with documents, invoices, presentations, pitches, whatever it might be, try and template it, use the time to template what you can, and it will save you a lot of time in the long run. Having an organized inbox, organized file storage is really critical so that you don't waste time trying to find that email that someone sent you 3 weeks ago with a title that looked exactly the same as all the other emails you've got. Try and spend the time again putting a good filing system in place, a good structure to your folders, for your emails, for your documents. It just makes it much easier to find stuff in the future. When you do get those crises, evaluate them again. Are they a crisis? Does it need doing right now? Is it a crisis for me or is it just a crisis for someone else? Use that matrix. Learn to say no. If you're on one of our previous Lunchtime Learns that Chris ran, it was all about assertiveness and how to be assertive. And part of that is about how to say no to people. And in doing so, you've got to acknowledge what they're asking you to do, the task they're putting in front of you, and be honest with them about why you're unable to help them there and then, and suggest alternatives. Maybe suggest when you can do it, maybe suggest other people that can help out, but learn to say no. And stop trying to multitask. I do my best, but I know I do it. I'll be in the middle of editing a Lunchtime Learn video whilst responding to a LinkedIn message, whilst planning the next catch up with Chris. And I'm trying to do all of them, and I'm trying to be sensible, but sometimes it doesn't work. Here's a great way of approaching this. So just to prove that it's not productive, if I asked you to do this exercise, if I asked you to say, I can do many things at once, and then count from 1 up to 22, you'd do it pretty quickly. Now, if I asked you to do those two things at the same time, so I said, say the first letter of the first word, and then the first number, then the second letter, the second one, it would take you a lot longer. You're doing exactly the same thing. You're telling me the same sentences. You're telling me the same numbers. It would just take longer. Multitasking isn't productive. And one of the main reasons is because of the time it takes to get your head back into what you were doing. So if you're writing a really complex document and then you interrupted yourself with a phone call, and then you try to get back to the document, it takes you a minute or two to think, right, where was I? What was I thinking when I was writing this paragraph? What was the sentiment behind it? What was the context? That's another 2 minutes that you wouldn't have had if you'd have just pressed not answer to the phone call, if you just let it go through to voicemail. So multitasking, we try it, but it's not productive. So don't fool yourself that it is. And finally, delegation. That was one of the ways in which we can manage our time according to that Eisenhower principle. So how do we do that? Well, delegation is more than just a time management tactic. It's actually got a lot of great things when it comes to the other person or the other people that you're delegating to. So it helps people develop. It gives them some new learning. And it means that if people know more and they can do more, then if you're running a team or you've got maybe just 1 or 2 people you're working with, then they become more efficient. They become more effective because they don't need to learn something new every time. They can just crack on with it. And there's more stuff they can do. It motivates them, and motivated people will do more stuff and they'll do it well. And there's that sense of empowerment, self-esteem, confidence that you asked them specifically to help you out, that you trusted them with this specific task. So that motivation and empowerment is great. And you know what? It means if you've got people around you who can stand in for you and cover you when you need to, when you've got to tackle something that needs doing right there and then, that crisis that comes up, well, you can deputize to them because they've got the experience, they've got the knowledge. And so you're equipping them to help them to do that. Also, take into account the amount of time that it takes to delegate. You can't just give something to someone and say, there you go, can you just do it? You've got to set a bit of context. You've got to talk people through what's involved. So just remember that there will be a bit of time involved. Now, to do it properly, then you obviously need to select someone who you think has the right skills and knowledge, but just do an assessment of that. Just make sure that you're 100% clear that they can do it. And if there's anything missing, if there's maybe a bit of knowledge they haven't got, maybe they've done what you're asking them to do once or twice, but it was a while ago, maybe a bit of time needs to be taken just to refresh them, just to upskill them, a bit of retraining. Be really clear on what you're asking of them, what your requirements are, and the detail, and what you're expecting. Set your expectations of what it looks like, the output, the outcome that you're looking for. Make sure they've got everything they need, whether that is physical resources, whether that's time, whether it's help prioritizing other stuff. Just make sure they've got what they need so they can do that task for you to the best of their ability. Tell them when you need it by, agree the milestones in terms of the end milestone, but also in between as you get closer to that point in time, and let them delegate. Don't micromanage them. Don't sit on their shoulder. Just leave them to get on with it. By all means, put in some reviews. Might be, depending on the urgency of the task, if it's something they've got a week to do, you might have a little catch up every day just to check they're on track, check if they've got any questions for you, and give them feedback. If there's stuff they're doing really, really well, give them the praise, let them know. And if there's stuff they're doing and it just needs tweaking, needs amending, again, give them that feedback to help them. The last thing, we've talked about communication styles, behavior styles. We've had experts come in our masterclasses who talked around different behavioral tools and personality tools. When you're delegating to someone, think about who they are. Think about the best way to have that conversation with them to delegate. Because for some people, you can just tell them there and then and they get on with it. Other people might need a bit longer. Other people might need it to sound exciting. Other people will need all of the detail. So just think about the person and structure your conversation in the right way. So that is the 3 steps, 3 different areas of how to manage your time more effectively.
So a couple of things to tell you about. We're opening our shop wider. So we've already got a shop on the MyPeopleClub platform, which advertises our coaching course. But we recognise that actually we've got a lot of really talented people in our community and in our networks. And, like we've always said, MyPeopleClub is about bringing everything under one roof. So it's a bit of a one-stop shop. So we are asking if anybody would like to advertise their courses, whether that's digital, face-to-face, as part of our shop, then get in touch for more details and to have a chat with us, because we would really love to have some other people on board and, and just make it really accessible for everybody, and they can have a great range of courses. So get in touch with us soon and we can have a chat about it. So we're looking to launch beginning of next month, and then we'll just grow it from there. Plenty of ways to get in touch with us. You can email us, you can get in touch via the website. There's forms on the website, on various pages. We've also got social media across all the different channels, so you can get in touch with us via Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, lots and lots of different ones. And we also will have a podcast coming out in January, so stay tuned for that.
Well, I think that brings everything to a close. 12:30 on the dot. I'm going to take that one as time management extraordinaire. 30-minute lunchtime learn delivered in 30 minutes. But of course, if you're watching this on replay, then A, enjoy it, and B, fire some questions in. It doesn't matter that they're not being asked right now while we're here. We will be there and we will answer your questions. So thank you very much. Have a great afternoon. Have a very productively well spent, effectively time managed afternoon and the rest of the week, and we look forward to speaking to you all soon.